Hello friends, once again I'm back to discuss one of the most wonderful and mysterious topics, and that is how DNA controls the blueprint, or in other words, how is it possible for DNA to control the body design of an organism? For example, if we consider humans, we have different kinds of traits. If we look at the structure of the earlobe, it is quite different in some organisms. The earlobe is attached, while in others it is free. Some have light colored eyes, some have dark eyes, some people are tall, some are short. And if you consider all the different characteristics as a whole, you will find that there is a huge amount of variations in all the different living organisms, including human beings. And then the question comes to mind, how is it possible for these characteristics to be controlled? Scientists have done a lot of experiments to prove that it is the DNA or the deoxyribose nucleic acid or genes that control the blueprint or the body design of the organism as a whole. First of all, it's very important for us to understand the meaning of this word. It sounds very fascinating though, blueprint. We all have seen the blueprint of a question paper. Now, the question paper every year for a particular subject is different, but the blueprint usually remains the same. Because the blueprint would refer to, let's say, how many 1 markers are there, how many 2 markers are there, and what is their weightage as per the unit or as per the chapter. In other words, if we consider the blueprint of a human, we would find that this blueprint would include a lot of interesting parameters. For example, the morphological characteristics, external characteristics, that is, our eyes, our ears, our hands, our legs. The internal characteristics, our anatomy as a whole. For example, the structure of heart, the structure of lungs, the kidney, and not just their structure, but believe me, also their placement. The heart has to be there within the thoracic cavity. It cannot be placed down or up. The blueprint would include also the working of different hormones in the body, different enzymes in the body. For example, this pepsin enzyme that helps in protein digestion. So this also is controlled by our DNA. In fact, if we just forget about these characteristics and if we focus our attention on some of the very interesting facts, for example, I'm talking to you right now. I'm speaking. Is this also controlled by the DNA? In fact, the answer will be yes. How? How is my talking related to the DNA? Well, it's very interesting. When I speak, then I have to spend some amount of energy. And we all know that the energy comes from a biomolecule which is called the ATP or adenosine triphosphate. It is also known as the energy currency of the cell. Now, to break down this ATP, we need an enzyme called ATPase. And the enzymes are proteins. And these proteins are actually coded by the DNA, and that's exactly how the DNA controls a character or the blueprint. In other words, what I want to focus your attention is on the very fact that the DNA controls the blueprint through proteins. So it is the protein that controls any character. So this means that the instruction from the DNA needs to go to a protein, and this protein directly or indirectly is going to take care of controlling a particular character. And once we assemble all the characters together, we get what is known as a blueprint. Let us take some more examples. While I'm writing, I'm moving my hand. Even when I'm walking, I'm moving my foot or legs. So when I move, then what's happening? That my muscles are moving. And all of us know that muscles are made up of proteins. Some of them are actin, myosin, troponin, tropomyosin, and a whole lot of proteins. All these proteins are coded by the DNA. So again, my movement is also under the control of the DNA or the gene. We have to appreciate the very fact that all the organisms are dynamic beings. We're not static structures. We're not like a stone or a fan or maybe a bedsheet lying. We are dynamic systems when I use the word system, I would just want to emphasize on the very fact that we take in certain amount of energy and we give out certain amount of energy. Also, we use certain nutrients, our body uses them, and when we die, then there are certain organisms which act on our bodies and they decompose the dead matter into nutrients, and that's how the nutrients get cycled. Since we are dynamic beings, the blueprint cannot be just about the characteristics that makes our external characters or internal characters, but in fact the blueprint should also be including the working of the different biological systems that are a part of our entity. For example, a very interesting example is the color of skin, which is coded by a protein which is called melanin. So melanin is a protein. Now we know that some people are dark, some have a lighter skin, and in fact the skin color is actually because of the genes that are having an additive effect, which means it's a polygenic trait, which means a lot many genes are controlling the skin color. Now, how much amount of melanin would be produced in a body? This depends upon the gene structure, or in other words, the DNA. Our height. You all have heard about the story of Snow White and the seven dwarfs. Now, why were the dwarfs small? This was essentially because of a defect in the pituitary gland, which releases the growth hormone. Interestingly, the growth hormone is actually a protein which is coded by the DNA. So how tall I am or how short I am, this depends upon the growth hormone which is coded by the gene. Then we can talk about whole lot of examples like the shape of our nails, the color of our nails, the color of our hair, the eye color, the light-eyed or the dark eye, and so many examples we can take to prove that it is the DNA that controls the blueprint or the body design of an organism. Thanks for listening to this video. Stay tuned for some more interesting videos on some very interesting topics. Till then, bye-bye.